that's a remarkable achievement, and I don't hear much about it. Tell us more about that, and tell us more about what kinds of things you did in the coffee house to try to bring people together. Because I recall from my own experience there that there were times that you had, I think, Stokely Carmichael speak, and times that you had H. Rap Brown speak. Tell us about that. What was the purpose of these speakers, and who was the audience, and what did you see yourself trying to do?
I think just learn. We were all very young at the time, and we all wanted to learn about what everybody had to say, so we can compare notes and kind of draw our own destiny as far as where our community can go or where our community should go for its survival, because this has been one of the biggest issues in our community, is survival. The high dropout rate then, the high unemployment rate then, the discrimination, job discrimination in all the job markets. So it was almost impossible for La Raza to get ahead during those times. And things have changed a little bit.
How about the rest of you? Do you have any ideas about that? Would you like to join the conversation on that issue?
I think it was a pretty good idea what we did. It helped a lot of Raza out, a lot of people, to make people understand what we're about when we went to communities and talked about the violence. And it proved a lot of points there where people stopped joining the gang and going into Brown Berets.
Really? And they joined the Brown Berets. How did they, what were they looking for in joining the Brown Berets? What were these young people looking for?
Some were looking for identity, who they were, what they're about, and stuff like that.
Let me first of all say that I did not join the Brown Berets in LA. I joined the Brown Berets in San Diego. And I was 17 years old at that time, as a senior in high school. I saw the tremendous discrimination that as people of Mexican descent we were facing on a daily basis. Racism, discrimination had been institutionalized. It had become a part of the educational and the United States government system towards us. I saw that something needed to be done, but I didn't know what.
Did you have some model for yourself? Did you have some hero figure? Did any of you have model or hero figures that you could follow, that gave you an idea of what you could become? Because you became a model figure for a lot of young people. Where did you get the idea? How did it come into your head that you could do and be more than what the society was pushing and telling you that you couldn't be?
I think it was a lot of things. I think one of the reasons, a lot of us were college students at the time, and we were trying to expand our awareness, taking the classes in the colleges and universities, as well as looking for information, looking for a way out of the way things were in our community. And it was kind of a search for a way to create power for the community, and the Brown Berets was the fastest way to create that power.
Well, you yourself, David, had received, I think, an award from the mayor of Los Angeles for your youth work. That was before La Piranha Coffee House.
Right.
And you must have had some idea of yourself as somebody who could rise above the degradation that Mexican Americans were being imposed upon. I mean, they were being imposed a kind of degradation from the larger society. What gave you the idea that you could do it? We've heard here, you got the idea that it had to be done and you were going to do it.
Well, I think that we all joined together and had the same ideology, in the sense that we all realized that education wasn't being provided for us, and in the past 40 years we're still in the same. Now the illegal immigrants are considered the modern slaves. They're deporting families, they're separating families actually. Children are left behind born in the United States. The young lady that was arrested last Sunday, they criticized her because she didn't take her son. How are you going to take your children to a foreign country that they don't know or understand because their culture is not being educated to? Not only that, how can you take them when you don't have a home, you don't have any place to go except the church or people that come out and assist people like the lady that was deported?
Well, that actually brings me to the next question. You've all alluded to having issues about the educational system. And what made you focus on the kind of action, the most dramatic kind of action that you took that turned you from Young Chicanos for Community Action into Brown Berets? Where did that idea come from? And I think where you know I'm leading is the issue of the school walkouts. How did you become inspired to do this? What was your
I'll tell you,
thinking?
What happened was somebody gave me a blue beret as a gift. I wore it for one day and I wasn't comfortable with it. So I went shopping around looking for a brown beret. And I found a brown beret and downtown. And I introduced the idea of calling the organization Brown Berets. And everybody accepted the idea. And that's how it started.
And where did the La Causa signature come from?
I think some of the Brown Berets got together one night and we drew it up.
You did?
Myself, Ralph Ramirez, Johnny Parsons.
I think it was primarily Johnny Manuel Parsons.
And what was it supposed to mean? What did you envision as the cause? What cause were you espousing when you put this medal, this signature on your beret?
The cause for justice.
The cause for justice. So that's where it boiled down. It came, all of these issues came to a search and a struggle for justice. You know, David, you said something very interesting in the coffee house one night that has to do with this justice issue. And I wrote it in my dissertation, but I've also used it in court many times since. David, you said, justice, when the Anglo says it, means just us. And do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I think I first said that to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. They had a meeting in East Los Angeles. This was when I was still in high school. And because of that, they took me to Washington, D.C., Phil Montes, with the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, took me to Washington, D.C. to speak on that term, what justice for them was about. And so it's still, even today, it's just us, everything for dominant society and nothing for our community.
That La Causa and justice are probably the major threads in the progress and proceedings of the organization. But I want to get back to the education issue. Whatever inspired you to do the walkouts? How did that happen? Ralph, you're there? Right. You and David. Who else up here was in? Louis was there? Okay, tell us about it. You were inspired by something. You thought there was something to be accomplished.
Or discrimination
It was the poor education that we were receiving at schools like Roosevelt and Lincoln and Garfield. We knew we were getting an inferior education, and all of the traditional means to combat that didn't work. They were of no avail. So we had to do something that in those days was considered radical or drastic.
It was very radical. Actually, if you search the literature, there was only one other school walkout that happened, and it was actually wasn't a walkout so much as it was a school boycott, and that had happened it happened in 1963 in the schools of Chicago, and SNCC and CORE orchestrated a school boycott day. And that was the first that I think happened. And again, it was because of the really inferior education. And it was a very dangerous thing to do, as you later learned, because in Chicago, what we were all afraid of having happen, I say we because I was involved in it at that time. And I was involved in it, setting up a freedom school. And we did that because we knew that if the kids got out on the street, the police were going to be waiting to club them, to arrest them, to do whatever damage they could. And it was a very dangerous thing to do. It was a very brave thing to do. And when you were considering doing it, how did you deal with, you must have had some fear.
Well, I think when you're young and you're a brown beret, you're very brave.
Yeah.
Just to put on the brown beret, you got to be brave. And we had some exposure already to. We were the first group to picket police harassment. We were the first persons to have pickets at the East LA Sheriff's Station to protest police harassment, police brutality. So we had a little training there, but I think mainly it was. It goes way back. We already had a deep foundation in education with the Young Citizens for Community Action. We were the ones who circulated the petitions. We circulated surveys to the schools way back in 1965. So we were already building a network throughout the high schools, and everyone came to the coffee house to meet on the walkouts. And that's out of our coffee house, out of the Brown Beret Coffee House. That's how the walkouts were organized out of there. And primarily, I know a lot of people are trying to get credit for the walkouts, but it was mainly the Brown Berets and the Brown Beret students in all the high schools who made that walkout happen.
How did you feel when the students started following you out? Because they followed the Brown Berets out. They didn't follow any teachers out. They followed the Brown Berets out. And one student led to two students, led to three students, led to classrooms full of students. Tell me what it felt like.
It felt good. I liked it. It showed me that the students were concerned about their education at the same time. They wanted better education.
The students cared about what was being done to them, and they recognized it.
Yeah, they really didn't care. They just wanted themselves to be more educated, better than everybody else.
So what you felt was pride in the fact that...
I was very honored to do that. I was very honored to be part of that.
Terrific.
I remember going to Garfield High School. We walked into the hallway at Garfield High School. We said, walk out. And nobody came out for a while. We said, wait a minute, we're in the wrong place. But then we kept saying walk out, and everybody started coming out.
Myself, I was at Lincoln High School at the time when we had everybody walk out. The police were there and all that, and the kids there didn't care at all. They said, heck, we're going to do it to better ourselves.